Just looking back at the last video, remember, Australia is a continent. It is also a country. Adjacent to Australia is New Zealand, a North Island and a South Island. The characteristics were explained in that video. To the north of Australia, both east and west, you have various island groups. You have the Solomon Islands, you have the Hawaiian Islands. They are all part of the Oceania, okay? But the video broke them down into smaller regions. Don't get them confused, but just remember, kind of remember what they were, all right? It'll come up again. So we're going to move on now to more detail about Australia. And it's going to start out, I believe, with the actual aquifer that we finished up with, which is located beneath the Great Plain.
There's your impermeable surface. Your life has greatly changed now that you've seen that line, I'm sure. And you've got your water, and you have this reservoir, so you also have something, artesian, that's impermeable on top, and it's under pressure. And why this is important is if you want to get this water out, all you have to do is poke a little hole here, and so it's really easy to get artesian water. So you have this overground pressure as well. You just tap into it, and you have all this. And you say, okay. But what that allows people to do is you can settle here. You can have cattle. You can do agriculture, which you couldn't do. You don't get enough surface water, but you do get enough water from the aquifer.
That's a good point to remember. There are portions of Australia's geography that are arid, but the portions that are over the aquifer have a built-in continental irrigation system, if you want to call it that, and that is the aquifer.
Okay, so moving towards the western plateau, here it's flat.
Take a look at that western plateau a little bit more closely.
Surface water, but you do get enough water from the aquifer. Okay, so moving to...
Damn it. Sorry.
Aquifer.
I want you to see. Okay. Let it shape up. And there it is, the western plateau.
Here's where the aquifer is, by the way.
This is a very unique piece of property because a large part of it is kind of barren. This will talk about it. Most of your population lies over here in the agricultural areas and the mountainous areas along the coast. And we'll go into more detail on that as the chapter improves.
Okay, so moving towards the western plateau, here it's flat desert. It's not good for farming because you have dry up top and you don't have that water below. And it's not my picture, but I like it. That's the Australian marble man and his shore.
Remember, the western plateau does not have the aquifer. That's more to the east of that area called the Great Plain.
But if you notice, what are his pack animals? Yeah, they're camels. So, normally marble man's on a horse, so we're going to look a little bit about what the camels are doing in this area. Okay, also out here, you're going to get erosion and weathering. And you
This is an important one, remember it.
Get a certain kind of landform that happens from that. So you have all of your ground is up here, and you have some things that are underground that are doing their thing, but everyone's walking around up here, do. And then you have rain and wind and all that stuff, and it starts to erode away all of the softer stuff. So the harder stuff still stays. So an example of this is Ayers Rock, Uluru in Aborigine. Where is my person who spent time in Australia? Did you go to? Oh.
This is just a big mound of hard sandstone and in a reddish color.
Okay, but you spent time in a lot of other places. Was there another Australia visitante person? Did you go? Well, you guys are in Melbourne and Sydney, and I still want to go there, so that is cool. But this is, so if you look at this, all of the ground is way up here. And that erodes away, and so what is left is called this erosion-resistant landform, that this just basically stayed where everything else used to be. And this is a really famous rock. Oh, open. Back row.
There's rock.
It's a famous rock, and when in 6th grade we had an assignment. It was to go on a trip. It was so you would learn about some country. So I decided I wanted to go to Australia in my fictitious trip, and in my story that I wrote in 6th grade, I made it to Ayers Rock. I waited till after hours. I climbed up the rock. There are Aborigines up there, and we danced and we bonded, and it was all really awesome. Right. So, I mean, out of all the places I have been, which is a lot by now, Australia's not one of them. Not sure how that all panned out. So you don't dance with Aborigines up there. However, you can go up, and it's very much a tourist destination. This is a big deal, and it's very spiritual and important to the Aborigines. So there's also some debate over access.
Now, Aborigines are the natives of Australia, the dark-skinned black natives, and most of them live in that western area that is kind of barren. Remember the name of that rock.
To the rock. Okay. New Zealand.
Okay, let's just take a second. The North Island, the South Island. If you remember, North Island was volcanic, but also had the capital of New Zealand and the most of the population. The bottom island is mountainous terrain, and she'll talk about it next. Just off the coast of Australia.
Oh, we're a little loud now. Okay, you have the North Island and the South Island. I want to talk about some distinctions between them.
Know these.
North Island, rolling hills, agriculture. This is, that's my picture because it's got the plane wing in it. So I'm leaving New Zealand, but as you can see with the North Island, you have all of this agriculture. Okay, so north. Also in the north, it's warmer because remember we're below the equator, and you have a lot of volcanic activity. So in your volcanic activity, we talked about, volcanoes, but you also have a lot of things going on underneath. So when you look at this, you've got a lot of hot springs. And I'm in New Zealand here, and this is a really big part, actually, of Maori culture in many ways, where they will go in the hot springs. And one of the things that happens when you have hot springs is the pressure waits, and then and you get your geyser. And this is every few hours. And I had arrived, and people were waiting, and everybody was like, and people are wearing raincoats around because all the water is kind of burbling everywhere. And they're like, this thing better blow. And I walked up, and I was like, click, click. And they looked at me. I was like, sorry, good timing. So really cool, though, when you watch all that power, and then it goes down, and you have to wait for the pressure to build.
Just like Old Faithful in Yellowstone National Park.
Again.